here for the next episode of the Powerless Podcast here with Alec Hawkins, who again is sort of, I should come up with a label for you, the assistant to the regional manager of the Powerless
print me out a
Podcast.
business card.
Yeah. But I thought it'd be fun, especially I had a couple of people cancel, or I had to reschedule a few things that were going on, just crazy life experiences and all that kind of stuff. But I thought in general we talked about that, like maybe it'd be fun to do this once a month, or I initially wanted to do this at the end of January, but then something else came up at that point. But like maybe once a month or here or there, we'll kind of tackle some news topics, both with music and always save it for the end in case people want to just check out for the politics aspect of things. But how are you? I didn't even actually ask you this. This is the first time I haven't asked somebody this 10,000 times before I hit recording. How are you doing today, man?
Man, it's Michigan winter. We got
Michigan winter and police sirens, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what it's been. It's been a lot of just up and down between spring and winter and snow and not snow, and you know how it goes. You're in Illinois. You get it.
Yeah. We had a couple like super freezing days here that like actually like this is my, I'm a teacher and this is my first full week of school. Granted, something crazy doesn't happen tomorrow. We're recording on Thursday. This entire semester, because we had snow days, we had something else that happened at the school where we had to shut down to the point of like we have not had a 5-day work week since before Christmas. So this is the first one back, and it's all because of the weather. And then like today, it was like 55 degrees and sunny. I was like,
do you have to make any of that up, or is it?
Yeah, we do have to make that up. Which is
wasn't any freebies for you?
No. It's always great to work later on into the summer as opposed to working when it's cold out and you wouldn't do dick.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm glad we can kind of go over this. Were there? But I guess another question, I'm going to start maybe doing this in the other episodes and stuff too, instead of some of the other kind of gimmicky things I've been doing at the end that I'm growing to hate. What have you been listening to much new music lately? What you been listening to the last?
Man, that's I wish I had my my phone like right on me. I feel like I cycle through like the same. I started listening to Super Bloom yesterday.
Nice, hell
for
yeah.
the first. I mean, I'd listened to it once before, but I had it on my. A lot of the shit I'm listening to now is like all my backlog of like the newest Spirit Box EP. Mm-hmm. I never really gave a whole shot, and then my roommate got it on vinyl and he showed it to me, and I was like, oh, this is actually really good.
Yeah, Grammy nominated, so whatever the fuck that means anymore, though. But yeah,
no, exactly. Yeah, they just toss those around, but
lost to the. I guess I could have put this in the notes for us to talk about, but lost to the great 72 seasons Metallica record.
I'm sure. I'm so far removed from Metallica. By the way, I've never been a Metallica fan.
Yeah.
Like again, I know a couple of songs, like the big boys, the big ones, but no, I just never really given it time of day.
Didn't get into the down picking as a kid learning Master of Puppets or anything, huh?
No, I didn't. But I've heard Master of Puppets a million times. It's everywhere.
Yeah, yep.
I just wrapped up Stranger Things literally last night. Okay, I've seen that.
I stopped watching that show after like season 3, and so I didn't even see. I have no idea. I know that Master of Puppets is in there, but I actually had not even seen the moment that like someone like me that like I learned Master of Puppets front to back, both guitar parts, whole deal. And like I haven't even checked that. I haven't even like checked out the clip on YouTube because like I just am so checked out of that show. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you're not a Metallica fan. I'm not a Stranger Things fan. And so everybody hates us. It's fine.
With our powers combined,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. I mean, again, like I guess I didn't put the Grammys thing on here because I fucking like whatever people. I don't. You don't pay attention to online discourse probably as much as I do because you have a healthier brain. But like people were losing their minds that Metallica won this for like the 30 millionth time, right? Whatever one it was, best metal performance, rock performance, whatever. And it was like, what? It's the Grammys. Like, you care? You listen to alternative music and you care about the fucking Grammys.
Very, very punk of you to care about who's winning the Grammys. Yeah.
So underground scene of you to care about who won the goddamn. Like, I always think it's cool when a band I like is there. Like, cool that Spirit Box was there. It's cool Paramore won some, I think, or whatever. Even though I
wasn't like August Burns Red nominated.
Yeah, they've
years
been
ago
nominated
too.
a couple of times, twice actually.
Yeah.
And I always think that's cool. Like, I think it's cool when a band of like the sort of genres that like probably the old industry heads don't really pay attention to kind of weasel their way, I mean that in a positive way, into a nomination. But it's like they're never gonna fucking win. Like,
Yeah,
they're
and
not gonna win.
I wonder how much of that is due to like a really good marketing team who's like who knows a guy who's like part of the Grammys and it's like, hey, can you, this is good, can you get nominated? Because
That's go ahead.
and I'm not saying those albums are bad, right?
No.
But like who is at the Grammys going like through like metalcore, post hardcore music, going like, yeah, this is the record, right? Like it's somebody, and Spirit Box in particular too, like have a great marketing team. They've done that for since they've been a band. Their marketing has been great. So
yeah, that's absolutely true. Them and Sleep Token were both nominated actually, which was interesting. And of course, neither one of them won, right?
The first award Sleep Token didn't win, you know.
yeah. Right. They won every single scene award from every streamer and podcaster ever. But
look at us bitching. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, these fucking popular bands, we hate them.
Yeah. All right, I'm so cool. People are gonna want to listen to me like fucking bitch about bands that I enjoy. But for the industry thing, like that's the thing that like is always, and we'll actually get to some of these topics here real quick. But like, it's always funny to me again how much people kind of in like metalcore scenes or alternative scenes, warped scene, I guess is the easiest way to call it, even though that's a term that is not gonna hold its own in a couple of years. Yeah,
boomer term.
Boomer term. But it's like it is an industry thing. Like there's a lot of moving parts of like knowing people in the industry or your record label or your manager knowing someone within the actual academy to even get nominated. It's not like someone looks at streaming number. It's not even something somewhat, I guess you would call meritocratic or democratic or whatever.
No,
where like people either voted in general or like certain people from whatever industry standard like look on Spotify or look at like reach or look at ticket sales or something. It's like literally it's like the Oscars too. It's like the most old school industry planted in the real sense like award. And that doesn't mean that people that win it don't make good records. I would argue the Metallica one is a good example that a mediocre record, like I like some songs on it, but it's a mediocre at best record. That one, it's like clap, who the fuck cares? But also like why are like fans of these other bands losing their minds about it? It's like no one cares. Like you shouldn't care.
It's all rigged. It's all rigged anyway. Like don't even worry about it.
It's all rigged, Grammys, Oscars, presidential elections,
all of it. Yeah,
it's all the exact same thing.
We're gonna get to that later.
Yeah. I'm now pro insurrection. But anyway, moving.
What are you doing January 6th next year?
Yeah. I always say, I mean, you gotta put out. I forget what I said, but I think I said like the other day on January 6th that like you have to put out like a 40 and an AR-15 for Kid Rock when he comes to your door on January 16th or something stupid like that. It wasn't funny, but I laughed. I chuckled at it.
Yeah.
But
you're your own audience.
Topics, you got the runner here along with me. And I'll throw you a bone to if there's one that you first kind of want to really look at.
I just like to go down the list as it is great. Travis Barker as a starting point is a good one.
So I saw this when it first came out, like minutes after the guy shared the link. And by the way, on social media, he shared the link and like instantly like blocked replies to it, right? Like, which is never a good sign that you think like people are gonna take this well. But Travis Barker had a clothing line. I don't think this is like brand new. It must be though, because I had not heard of it before. But Don't Trust Anyone. It's don'ttrustanyone.com for anyone that wants to go buy one of these really, really, really inexpensive T-shirts. But Travis Barker put this thing up on his own website, and they're basically. I mean, did you look at the website actually as well?
I didn't even fact check it. I just saw the memes.
To be fair. But, so I have
now while you're talking, I'll go to Don't Trust Anyone.
Yeah. So I've got it pulled up on my screen here, and there's it's straight up like standard. I don't know what font that would be, Helvetica. I don't fucking know. Of all these different T-shirts, black, red, white, whatever, that just say "Don't Trust Anyone" in the most standard lyric print, basically $390 for those. $390 for basic t-shirts. Put out these various mash it up long sleeve shirts that are all sold out that start at $3,000. I think the cheapest one is $3,190. The shorts are $3,190. Other shirts are $450, $300, and then hoodies at the low price of $990. Like
they got these sweet Rambler twill trousers that look like they were made in Morocco or whatever. That Morocco. I don't know. Where do they make stuff? Where do the kids make stuff these days?
Literally the kids. Where do the children make this stuff these days? Yeah.
For $1,045.
Well, and those pants look like they're straight out of like Jenko, like the new metal era. And I love the idea of having an anarchy symbol on something that costs over $1,000. Like that is fucking.
The irony is
money.
never lost.
Like the irony. Yeah, the irony is amazing. Yeah, the dad hat. That's just this is record labels. DTA Records. Don't trust anyone records. It's almost $300 for a dad hat. Like all the way at the bottom. A studded belt for almost. For over 13, designer or whatever.
It's not like True Religion or anything like that.
Yeah. And it doesn't even fucking look great by any stretch of the imagination. No. Like I wouldn't buy this shit if it was $40,
right.
And you bring that up and people be like, well, someone's going to pay for it. And you can see some of the stuff sold out. That's like, they could have been
but is it really so I have a huge conspiracy on this as I looked at it looked at the memes the first time. Like, what if this is just some Kardashian shell company?
Oh my God.
I get Travis Barker is popular. I get he's in one of the most, if not like the most famous pop punk band in like the last couple of decades, right? But he's not that big. He's not like a public figure. He's not he's not a Kardashian yet. But I was like, nobody. Unless they had like two of them, like two of each item or whatever, and some super fan was like, I'm buying this so I can maybe make triple my money or whatever. Like, who is buying large amounts of units of this? The Kardashians. It feels like it's just a way to give him money. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, my tinfoil hat is on. And
we already talked a little bit
up later, but
we're all into the rigged shit at this point, right? This is now a conspiracy podcast, right? I've jumped the ship from hardcore and left-wing politics. We're just going full tinfoil at this point, and this is a good part of it. I love it. Yeah. But I mean, no, seriously, like I'm not gonna sit on this for forever. Again, like I know, like people. The thing is, like people will. I would guess some people will buy this. I don't know. My whole thing is like, if it's legit and it's for some like record label, like I don't even know if he actually has a record label or if this hat just like is he's saying it's a record label to look cool. I don't know, but like I don't know. There's like an ethics thing to me that is wrong with this because like you do have such a big that like you have fanatical fans that will spend money on something because you put it out there. And they can't afford it. And now you can't talk about agency and how it is on them if they don't budget which it's fucking stupid to buy this. I would tell anyone that buys this they're fucking stupid.
You could make this on Canva today and put it on Etsy for $9.99 and on a Gildan tee. Like it's not.
Somebody did that. I saw somebody do that.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope they did, and I hope they priced it for like $89 just to like make it look like it's significantly cheaper. Like at this point, okay. Yeah. I know it's an ethics thing, but still.
At the same, it's one of those things that like I always talk about a lot of times, or like there's some political podcasts I listen to sometimes where people get in like this one way or the other way discourse, and it's like you can hold two thoughts in your head. You can say this is exploitative, kind of immoral and fucking weird, and also and they shouldn't do it on principle, and also people are fucking stupid if they buy it. You can hold both of those thoughts in your head at the same time.
I just can't believe it's like a legitimate business. It might be a legitimate business, but I can't believe he's doing it as like a real business. Like I feel like he just like posted it up there and like it's like a huge marketing ploy of, hey, like if I do something really insane, and that's what it is now, right? Like you do something insane enough to be on the news or to be on the internet front pages and all of a sudden you get a little more 5 seconds of fame, and then you do the next thing and the next thing, and maybe he's just hit that point in his career, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of had. Did you not to shit on Blink a bunch because I don't want to get the mentions, but but like it was like the what the fuck is up Denny's thing that Blink did a couple months back or whatever, and it was like there was a real band that did that like a decade ago. Like
Yeah, way
it's
smaller
like,
too.
yeah, and it was like a big thing for them, and it was like kind of a cool, iconic, real viral moment. And it's like, all right, now we got some boomer 45-year-old dads just like,
Trying
what
to
the
ride on
fuck
those
is up,
coattails.
Denny's?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like selling merch from it. And it's like, you didn't even do it. Like, what the fuck are you like? That wasn't even you.
That's really cool. What if we stole that?
Yeah. Let's steal a viral moment from when MySpace was around or something. Like,
yeah, maybe
Christ.
why are you doing a podcast when you could just be looking at old fucking vines and recreating them on Instagram?
Yeah. Basically, right. Like it was just like some of the stuff, and like I like Blink. I don't really like any of their new music anymore, but like I like Blink, and like it's just like kind of cringe at the end of the day. Like, don't spend a whole lot of time on it. I almost didn't put this in until I remembered it because I saw somebody comment on something I shared about it today, and I was like, we gotta talk about this. This is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But all the power to him. Hope he makes no money from it, but I'm sure he did.
I'm sure he made a killing.
Next on the list is something positive.
Yep.
Not a shitting endlessly on some super famous dude, but friend of the show. That I introduced you to, so I'm glad I got one good band to you when you've shown me like numerous good bands. But with Sales Ahead, put out a new song a week ago yesterday.
What do you see when I shift in my skin? When I can't break out, still you get in. How do you always know how to make it right when the serotonin is low? Why do I only fight every single time you believe that I've done good? How did you find the key to my head when I destroyed the lie to begin with?
So it's been about 8 days. Swear words. And an album announcement for Infinite Void, their first full-length album. They've had a couple of EPs, a lot of singles. This is their first full-length album, out April 26th. I was a big fan of Darting Eyes, kind of a heavier track from their perspective, kind of, more riff-heavy. Not to say this doesn't have, like, leads and shreddage and all that stuff in it. But this one was a bit different, a bit more poppy. What did you think of the single, and what do you think we're going to get out of the record?
So they posted before the single came out. It was, this next song is going to be Michelle Branch meets Lower Definition. And I was like, I'm here for it, and I think it lives up to that. I think it's the instrumentals definitely remind me of like that era of post-hardcore that Lower Definition was. And I don't know if you're a Lower Definition fan.
I know of them well enough. I was never big into like the poppier side of post-hardcore, really, but they're a legendary band. Yeah,
and they were weirdly unique, right? It wasn't like they were doing anything to break the wheel, but they just had something about their band that was much different than what other people were doing, even on like a small scale. I feel like this definitely fits that bill, where the chorus is very Michelle Branch style. And then with like more like kind of K-pop-y kind of vocals. And Sierra does that a lot, I think, in their songs, as she hits that like K-pop anime kind of voice. I don't know if you feel that or not, but I'm not saying that negatively either. There's definitely like an influence in there. Yeah.
There's a big influence in that. I mean, they made their whole video for Darting Eyes like based off of an anime. So like, it's very much in line with some influence there. And like, I don't know much about K-pop, so I can't speak to that. I think I've heard like one K-pop song, I'll be honest, in my entire life. But I do agree. Like, there's a lot of like poppy elements to it for me that aren't like mainstream. I don't even fucking know new pop artists, dude, anymore. But like mainstream pop, right? Like it has like this element of straight up pop music to it that is like still different and unique, right? To where I liked it, and I don't fucking like poppy music. If it's usually for me anymore, it's like if it's not pissed and, and just like punching shit or like somber and sad.
If it doesn't make my blood fucking boil, I don't want to listen to it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's basically me. I'm just rearing myself up for a stroke at some point in my life. You know.
Just get it done with early. I definitely, I think I enjoyed Darting Eyes more. It's more me, right? But I think if the whole album kind of consists in this like pendulum between more like Darting Eyes or more like this song, I'll love the album. Like I'll listen to it front to back. It definitely gives me a lot of I know they listed in their like Spotify bio Hail the Sun. They also hail the song like a lot like Birds. And instrumentally, I think the band really speaks to those kind of bands. The kind of Swancore-esque, but not quite all the way there. So
that word's not allowed on this podcast. Actually, you're not allowed to say that. No, I'm just
Pulses-esque band.
There you go.
You know, yeah. We're just gonna relabel that.
Yeah. I'm keeping that in though. You're gonna get burned by those bands. It'll be fine. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think it's good. It's a good point though too. Is like I felt like it was a really good second single for a band that is very diverse. You know, I think it's hard for a band like With Sails Ahead that I would imagine would be. I'm not in the room when they're making these decisions, but where they have all these different elements in their music. It's very eclectic. Kind of you reference Pulses in a different way. Like those bands are very different, but also say the same in the way that they have a lot of diverse influences in their sound, and yet it's very cohesive. And I thought this one was great. I was kind of, for me, I was a little taken aback at first when I heard it of how, obviously there's some screaming in and some heavier elements. And I know a lot of their music has a lot of more melodic tendencies within the music. But it was very melodic compared to Darting Eyes, but I loved it. It was great, and the music video is sick. So just like the aesthetics of I know it's just like a kind of, it's for the most part a performance video, but like it looks really high end and really flashy and really cool. So I'm stoked for the record. I'm hoping I have them on to talk about it when it comes out, which will be really cool. But I think if, like you said, if these two songs are sort of somewhat of the pendulum that you can expect from it, or other curveballs they might throw, I think it'll be cool. I do know what's interesting about this song is, for the most part, their vocalist Sierra wrote the guitar for it, and then they kind of fleshed it out a little more after. But it's sort of a song that she more took the wheel with in its entirety than say like Darting Eyes,
which is
like that.
Super cool when like bands do that. I think when they have multiple members doing things outside of what they normally do, and like spearheading songs, and I think you get a lot more diversity that way.
Absolutely, 100%. So definitely, if anybody's not checked it out, check out Swear Words, check out Darting Eyes. Definitely go pre-save or pre-order the vinyl for Infinite Void, and it's out in April, so there's plenty of time to. If you're broke like me all the time, there's plenty of time to save up to pre-order.
We're all broke, baby.
Yeah. Next thing we had on the docket, which again, like we kind of came up with some of this list last week, but I think this one's still pretty prevalent. It was kind of a big deal, especially since they put out a song like, was it the day after, I want to say, or something, which is not great marketing, but I guess people were talking about it, so maybe it was good marketing. And I know like Chris Turner, who's the best part of the band, in my opinion, I haven't said it yet, Ocean's 8 Alaska. He was just on like the Downbeat podcast like the same week that this happened as well. So it's like, there's like, kind of this big build up to a single, and then it's like, the singer that left once before is gone again. So for Ocean's 8 Alaska, which I found this interesting, I didn't kind of really realize this because I listen to the band, but like I'm not one of those people like dives deep into like band members' lives and who's even in the band for like a band a lot of the times. But their now former vocalist James Harrison had left in 2016 or 2017, came back in the band, and now left again. And then they put out a single, right? And like the single was with this member, wasn't it? Wasn't he on the song? Like, or was that not the case?
James?
Yeah.
Or...
James.
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I think they're new vocalist. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think it is their new vocalist. He's I don't know. He's from Silent Screams.
You're right. You're right. I am an idiot. I don't watch music videos, so I would have found that out. Cut that.
No.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because right after that,
just totally. Yeah, I don't make mistakes. I don't ever make
fucking mistakes. No. But their new vocalist Joel Haywood of Silent Screams, which I've never checked that band out before. Replaced him. New song was great. What did you think of the new song? I think it's called Endless.
I think it's a safe play, to be honest. I think like it sounds so. I have so much to say about I know I'll condense it. Kind of feels like a safe play. It kind of feels like Chris Turner, and I like the elements to it. Like it still feels like the band, right? Mm-hmm. But it definitely feels like a Chris Turner single. I don't know if you ever listened to like his side stuff that he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds like exactly what he would do, and then they just threw vocals on it.
Yeah.
And modified it maybe a little bit. Like it doesn't have a lot of the crazy that they normally have. Mm-hmm. So right now, but I think Henshaw or whatever that single was off of the record they did with Jake, not James. The second record they had.
The second record, yeah.
Hikari. I think it was Hikari.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that felt kind of like a safe play too, but it also is like a really groovy good song. So and one of my favorites on the record when the record came out. So who knows? We'll see like what they do musically. I'm more worried about the band. I don't know if did you read all of James's statement on
I did. I read it and I was a little confused by it, I guess. Like it was very long-winded. Sure. And I don't know if it made a whole lot of sense to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really sure.
I think it has merit.
Yeah,
but I don't think. But I think like you said, it was like so long-winded. Like some of the things he was saying, I was like, this doesn't even need to be in here.
Right.
Like he talked about how he was like, oh, when I was first in the band before I left the first time, I was like left at a train station or truck stop in Budapest at 3 a.m. for 5 hours. And like, I almost broke my neck and I did all this for the band and I went to debt for the band. And then I left and then I came back. I'm like, bro, why the fuck did you come back? Like if you were treated like dog shit that whole time, what made you think it was a good idea? And I get it when it's kind of like your baby, your project, your thing that like you helped create, you want to be a part of it. Right. But
right.
And then he went on and talked about how like the members are like very laddish and very like said homophobic comments and transphobic comments, which again, I'm not like saying that he's wrong in that. Like, I don't know him, but like, why didn't you leave earlier? But I get it's harder to do, but I get it's hard to do when it's like your band and your baby and whatnot. I think the issue they're going to face though, going forward, I think the biggest part of his statement that made sense to me was, hey, we release an album every 5 years. We never get traction because we can't get our shit together. We're massively in debt. Fearless Records dropped us. We lost our manager. People are getting unequal percentage cuts, which happens in bands all the time, by the way. That's not like a new thing, but it's, on top of all the personal stuff he's going through with all that happening, it's like, yeah, it's actually, he should be thankful that he got removed because now he doesn't have to deal with any of that.
Yeah, I mean,
for the most part,
it seems they've always been a band that I hear about a lot, and yet it doesn't ever seem like they're like going the next tier, when it comes to their popularity, despite having a lot of notoriety. Again, mostly with Chris Turner, who's like, arguably one of the best drummers out there. But like you said, you put out a record every 5 years in metalcore, like good luck. And you have all this, I think the only band I can think of that's had this much, like, inconsistency with a vocalist that's continued to do well is, like, Dance Gavin Dance, right? Like, I don't like that band. I don't listen to that band, but, like, it's the only time I can think of when a band has had, like, 3 vocalists. And, like, at one point, one came back as an example to this and, like, has still done reasonably well. Like,
yeah. But they also release an album every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and that's the difference.
Like, no matter what.
Yeah. We're like, you can't just in music anymore unless you're like I can't even say even if you're a massive band, because even those bands put out like records every 2 years or something. If you're thinking of like a massive, a massive band in like the sort of modern metal scene. So it's just, I mean, it's just like this band's pretty talented. I wouldn't say they're like top tier for me, but I just found this so interesting of like the crazy inconsistency, the big statement by the vocalist as he left out, and then like the immediate turnaround of like the release of a song with a brand new vocalist.
Let's just shove that under the rug real quick. Like it's and then his statement got corroborated though with the other ex-vocalist who like he didn't come out and say, hey, you're right, but he was like, hey man, I'm sending good vibes and whatever, and like I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ex-vocalist's wife also commented on the post being like, yep, this is exactly what Jake used to say about the band. And then Chris Turner's ex-girlfriend commented on the post being like, yep, that sounds about like it seems like James isn't really like in the, like it might be somewhat hyperbolized, right? Because it's a personal struggle as well. But
right.
It seems like the basis of what he's saying is pretty apparent.
Backed by other people. Yeah. Which yikes.
Which again, if the band is in debt and the band isn't doing well and you get removed from the band, guess what? You don't have to deal with any of that debt anymore.
Yep.
It's, unless it came out of your personal account, but like if it's all covered by that entity and they remove you, you're good to go.
Yep.
Normally. So should be thankful.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a blessing for that person if this is how this pans out. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, song was fine. Statement was pretty divisive, I guess we could say, and seems corroborated. And we'll just see how that pans out for this band. Go, it might take them, maybe they'll put out
another 5 years. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, on a more positive note, did you get to check? So I put in this link of this new band, right? That It's their first EP, brand new band right out of the gate. I don't know if you checked, but like for a band right out of the gate, they already have like over 1,000, almost 1,500 listeners on Spotify. They're getting shared around by a couple of people that are kind of somewhat bigger up and coming in the music industry. So did you check out any of the music from Bloodveil?
I did a one listen through, and then I listened to a couple of songs more than once.
Yeah.
But I can't say like I was like super in depth on it. Right.
Yeah.
It was definitely like I was like driving my car and like talking and hands free because I have to be. But like and listening at the same time. But it did remind me of like kind of like a heavier gent version. I don't know if gent's the right category for it. But like down tuned, like the Thornhill kind of style guitar.
Yep.
With like Sleep Token baritone vocals sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like they definitely had a wide variety of song of like a wide variety of range in the songs, I should say.
Yeah. So I know the singer a little bit. His name's Aiden. Young band, relatively young band, and I was pretty blown away when I heard it. Obviously there's things that it's not like a perfect EP, right? Like it doesn't sound like a
sure.
$100,000 producer made it necessarily or something, but I think it's good for a first release. But what I liked about it is like, I described it as, Sleep Token's a good reference. I said, if it was like Sleep Token did crack and tried to embellish some deathcore into their music, like that's kind of, that's kind of what I thought about it. And like, I really like it. They're supposed to maybe come on the show soon too. But the reason why I've been kind of showing this thing around to people, because I think it's like, I don't know, it's sort of the next, I'm seeing some other bands out there kind of doing little things like this, where it's like the next era of like new music that's influenced by a band like Sleep Token, but also like people are obviously like from the metal community listening to it that are into bigger things. Like when I first heard, I forget which song it was on here, but I think it was like the second or third song where the vocalist just starts doing some straight up like the like deathcore like pig squeal type vocals right after doing like those baritone soulful vocals, and I was like, this is the next iteration of that kind of idea where it's just gonna go fucking off the wall, like you're gonna which is what happened, I guess, when you think about like the mixing of R&B into like progressive metalcore and all that kind of stuff that happened in the 2010s. It's really sort of the same iteration, just like a new idea of that coming off of like this massive band that probably has a huge influence over up and coming bands,
And I feel like it's going to be kind of like a race to the top on that kind of thing, where it's like the first bands who are trying it out I'm not going to say aren't going to be the ones to succeed, but like that generally isn't how it works, right? Like if Bloodveil was the first band to ever do this, which I doubt they are, to be like influenced by Sleep Token and like create like music that kind of resembles it a little bit. They're not going to be like the most popular one. It's going to be somebody like a year from now who does it, and like it somehow breaks through that, like that's the thing now, right? But it takes a lot of bands like Bloodveil to experiment with, hey, what can we do with like genre mashing? And it, again, I listened to the EP one time through. It sounded good. I enjoyed it. Again, I don't think the production was like top tier, like you say. It wasn't $100,000. Like the person who's producing Spirit Box isn't producing Bloodveil, right? But it still is. It's a solid listen, and it's listenable, right? For sure. It's not like you're picking it apart the whole time.
Yeah, and get like what I find interesting about it more from like a bigger at large look in music, what's coming out is like kind of like what you said, is a band like Sleep Token or some of these other bands that kind of have these various sounds, even though they're within the metal community, they kind of have their own weird thing going on that kind of makes them pretty individualistic. Like what is the sound going to be going forward when that's not a one-off, right? When there's like all these people influenced that are good musicians that have that and all these different things, like just kind of implementing that in like I said, like in a deathcore element way and all these different things. Like it just seems like something's going to be budding from that is going to be just like absolutely off the wall to a lot of people. But like you said, a few bands, I think this one has a lot of promise, but there's going to be plenty of other ones too that it's like, just crazy shit's going to come out and it's going to stick. You know what I mean? Yep. Like it's just a interesting sort of
new wave
of that. So yeah, moving on from that last music related thing, because on this show we're big stands of this band for some reason, because they make 2-minute long, like massive, just like pissed off music that's incredible. Is the song that came out today, again recording on Thursday, Backfire from Throne. What did you think of this one?
So I think I read a comment on YouTube and I was like, this is literally encapsulates how I feel about the band. They go, if Throne made a whole album, it would be the best 12 minutes of my life.
Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah.
And I was like, yep, that sounds great. That's like right on par with the band. It definitely felt like an intro track. Like if I don't see this as an intro track for if they make an EP, like I don't even know what they're doing. They might just be doing singles and you just keep it going. But a lot of bands are doing that now. It definitely felt like Guilt and On the Verge felt very similar to me in pacing and like BPM and in just kind of general style. This one was a little bit different, but still very them. And I think with 2-minute songs, it's hard to say, hey, this sounds repetitive, because like it is the song, right? You might get something that gets called back, but 2 minutes it's over, and that was it. And I kind of like that for the band. Yeah, the way they structure songs.
I think you're right on that. And that, like, if it was this style, I think they've nailed the style where it's like, to be honest, and the single thing too, and again, this is made by, I can never say his last name right, but Busser, who's like in a bunch of different great projects, great producer and mixer and master. He does like the whole spiel for this band and the other ones he's in. They just figured out, it's like, people have short attention spans now. People like heavy music. Why don't we make songs that are 2 minutes and under? I think like their longest song is 2.5 minutes long, and just like scream about how life sucks. Right? Like,
have you seen them live ever?
I've watched videos. I haven't seen them myself.
But I haven't either. But I've been imagining that, like, if they get to like this like mid. I mean, they are like kind of like a mid-tier level band, right? They could probably get like second on the ticket. They have a 30-minute set time.
It's like
you could get through so many songs. They're like, hey, do you want to hear every single song I ever wrote? If they like didn't take any breaks in between at all, they could probably do their discography, which is funny.
What is really funny, because I think I'm looking right now. I think they've got. By the way, without looking, do you know how many monthly listeners this band has on fucking Spotify now?
700 or 900,000.
It is close to 1 million. It's 989,000.
Yep,
and it's like
I saw it yesterday, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting that like they've climbed up there so far." And I don't know what that's from.
That's
like,
from people
like
finishing records and them coming on right after. Is what that is.
It's because the Spotify algorithm.
Yeah. But I don't know. I there's something about this band that like scratches the caveman part of my brain. Where like a lot of times I like music that's like very intricate and has serious lyrics and all that, and then it's like you hear this one, it's like turn my brain off and just go, let's go. You know what I mean? And I just love it.
Yeah, it just again, I said this about Left to Suffer when you were talking about our top 10 a couple months back, but like it's the same vibe for me for Throne too, where it's like it kind of just reminds me of how I felt about Amir.
Yeah,
like when Amir was popular, it was like, oh, I just want that heavy beat down, crazy, whatever, and then it's done and on to the next one. And it's they always have great songs to have in playlists.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if I could sit down and listen to Throne for an hour straight.
No.
Because I think it all bleed into each other. But when a Throne song comes on my shuffle, or if I like have them playlisted or, whatever, it doesn't matter what one it is, like I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, 100%. I feel the exact same way. So that kind of I mean, a lot of good music there for people to check out. I'll have to decide which song plays at the end here after all of this. But are you down for the last little bit here? We got a few minutes left to talk. For everybody to turn off the recording.
Yeah. We're talking politics now.
But this is genuinely like so. I know you're definitely not as immersed into like the political discourse the way I am, because again your brain's healthier. But I look at memes all fucking day long. I don't think my brain is any healthier. It's just a different kind of fucked up. Yeah. Right. Let's go. I do that too, but we'll go with that. I don't know. Did you look at what I shared to you about what happened with Biden today with President
so
Biden?
I at first when you shared it to me, I thought, oh, this is just written by The Independent, right?
Yeah.
And then I Googled it, and, CBS had it, and Fox had it, and, like, it was so many different tellings of, I mean, it's the same story, but so many different outlets were telling the same story, and I was like, oh, no.
Yeah. So for context for people that don't read the news, which you're smart if you don't, so the special, for so much shit has happened in the news that's way more serious than this, but that's why I wanted to talk about this, because it's just kind of, I don't know, for people like you and I will find it sort of humorous, but like people that are really invested into electoral politics
funny. It's
will
just
lose
the guy
their
running
mind.
the country.
But there's a couple months ago or a year ago now at this point, there was a time where both, obviously like Trump had like the classified documents that were seized from his house by the FBI, and that was a whole thing. And then Biden and former Vice President Mike Pence had classified documents seized from their house and all this kind of stuff. And so the special counsel came out today, like literally right before I shared this to you today, and said that it looks like Biden with intent hung on to Obama era classified documents, but there's no reason to take him to court because his memory loss would make it an obvious, like, reasonable doubt. So they talked about in this interview that he didn't remember he was vice president. He didn't remember when his term ended.
He didn't. Yeah, he didn't remember the dates he was vice president. So this is where like I get kind of dicey on it, right? Where his memory is definitely shit. Like he's an old guy. Okay, like that's just how it is. You get old and your memory sucks. It's and I'm sure if you're president, you get way more stressed out and your memory just declines at a far more rapid pace.
Yeah, you see how they look by the end of a term, right? Yeah, it's brutal.
Inside they're rotting too.
Yes,
and so it's. People are saying that he like forgot his vice president, but he couldn't remember like dates,
specific dates,
in which that he like was in term or odd term and didn't remember like what dates he ran with Obama and stuff like that. And part of me when I read that was like, oh, was this just like a one-off interview thing of like, I can't tell you what I ate for breakfast 3 days ago.
Right.
And I get those like big life events for him, but it's not like he can know like on the dime, on the spot. He's old. Like it's going to take a second to be like, oh, was that the time when I was running for vice president? But because this is like a whole investigation, this isn't just like one interview. This is like multitudes of interviews and data collection over time that they've just been
to
like,
determine
hey,
if he's like
memory's so
viable
bad.
for a criminal case, right?
Yeah. It's just crazy. It's so crazy that the defense is just like, so there probably was intent, but he can't remember what the intent was. So like, it's that now.
Yes, yeah, it's pretty rough to say the least. One thing that I find so obviously, like, you're right, people over sensationalize this. People obviously like take it and run with it, whether they're like me and they just kind of scoff at these fucking lunatics that run the country all the time, or there's somebody that's like right wing and wants to like shit on that and prop up Trump or whatever else. But like the liberal thing that's been really like, I don't know how to describe it in this situation, is there are people that are both saying like they shouldn't have talked about this. This was right after like a traumatic, it was right after October 7th where he had to handle all this stuff. And so it was like a full weekend. And I was like, he has the most important job in the country,
Right.
arguably the world, when it comes to geopolitics. And you're like, well, a big thing happened, so it really jostled him. It's like, and he should be doing that job.
Yeah.
And
well,
also,
then you shouldn't be doing the job.
and also the other big thing that a lot of like, there's like people from various news outlets and also, these kind of influencer people that the Biden administration pays on social media, which is gross, but it happens everywhere. It's not just them. But they said, people said like, don't dunk on an 81-year-old's poor memory. Like, you need a password manager. You lose your phone from anywhere from 6 to 30 times per day, and you have to dig the pizza box out of the garbage to check the bake time. Somebody fucking said that, and I was like, come on, man. Like, you don't. Yeah, you don't really.
Don't
you
give
can't
me false equivalencies for the presidency.
It's
okay,
like,
that's yeah.
It's like somebody literally just said, Biden's memory is so bad that there's no reason to prosecute, and someone's like, that's just like when I lose my phone. Like, what are we doing?
Where'd it go for the third time today? Yeah.
And again, like I said, I think obviously this is just funny. Like, you can find humor, and it's humorous, and yet it's not, right? It's humorous in a cynical way.
No,
it's not because we're all
it's
screwed.
very sad and scary.
Yeah, we're all screwed.
Also, kind of, it's just like, it's just like Trump.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's like, this is horrifying, also kind of hilarious. Like, it's just like funny that we got here.
Yeah.
This is the state we're in now, which is going to lead to my question: is would you rather? This isn't like a Biden or Trump election. Like, who would you rather be elected? It's, would you rather have somebody who can't remember anything at all, and like the strings are just being pulled by like 18 other people in Congress or the White House or whatever, or would you rather have one guy who kind of knows what he's doing but not really, things are going to change and you're not going to like it, but like at least you know that they're semi with it.
This is where, for me, again, like, both of these people can burn, but for me, the funny thing that like people don't talk about as much is the amount of like gaffes and like sort of memory lapses Trump also has, like right in the middle of rallies. Sure. He was just talking about how he beat President Obama in an election. Like, he said that a couple of times in a rally. It's like, dude, you ran in 2016 against Hillary Clinton after the Obama president. Like, you didn't run against him. And he says all these different things that it's like, that didn't happen. Like, your brain is sludge as well. It's just, he's like more uppity, right? He's got more energy. So people sort of like miss that moment, but it's just the real moment is like, God, we have two people running for president that should be in nursing homes. Like, it's just so bad.
It's funny when you hear either of them, even like when they were running even 20, even for the election season for them, it's funny when you hear them tell stories. That's like, those are my favorite like moments when people are campaigning, when they're old and they start telling stories.
The record player at home.
Yeah, I met a guy who knows a guy who told me this thing, and they just kind of like trail off, and the story goes nowhere. And they both do it. They both do it very differently. I think Biden just kind of like loses. He just like dissociates from reality completely.
Yeah,
he just ghosts out like Danny Phantom. But like,
solid reference. Solid reference.
Yeah. And Trump just keeps talking.
Yeah.
He's like, if I keep talking, I'll catch up to myself eventually. And both tactics are not funny, but very funny.
Well, it is like, this is the last thing I'll say, Alex. I don't want to stay on this for forever, but like, it is funny you say that because that is so true. There was some, I don't remember, but there was some interview Trump did. I think it was for Fox News, like not that long ago, where I don't even remember what he was talking, but he just kept talking, like just kept talking and talking and talking on something, and it was a serious topic. But like he just kept going and kind of like making himself sound more and more like idiotic throughout the whole thing, or like that he was in the, like he had made a dumb decision, but just like kept going and going. And you're like, are they having him snort something right where he goes on recordings? Like, what is happening?
I bet they're mainlining something before they get on the stage. Okay.
Like I cannot imagine, like we all know elderly people, right? They might be sharper than both of these people. And this isn't like an ageist thing. I think there's plenty of like old elderly people that can do a great job at a lot of different things. But at the same time, I don't think it's ageist when you talk about like the retirement age for a lot of people is 65 to 70 years old, depending upon.
Well past that.
Right. And like we got people that are 10 years older than that doing the most, like, you know, I've got my opinions on the American government that are well documented at this point on the show, but like it is like one of the most trying, you know, if you're doing it well, it's one of the most trying, like draining, because there's so much that needs to be handled. There's so much bureaucracy and so many important decisions, and it's like I can't imagine myself ever doing that job, let alone like when I get to 80 years old. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like these people were like eating food when they were younger, that in the 50s, where like there was no regulation on like anything going in their body. You know, they're like smoking cigarettes and like chowing down on grease. Like it's just like it's just
they had to deal with Agent Orange. Okay, like you know,
right, all those different things, and it's like how like it's not. It should not compute in people's brains that this is where we're at, but it's where we're at, and it's funny and it's fine, you know. But
I can't. It's just such a norm now that it's like you can't even be mad at it. Like, you know, you're like, it just, again, I'm not my tinfoil hat, but it's like, who cares? It's just gonna be what it's gonna be anyway. And like the learned helplessness is what's happening more and more now. I feel like in our society, where it's just like, okay, I just don't like. You're way more engaged than I am because I just kind of stopped giving a fuck.
That's kind of a healthier point at this point, you know.
It's but it's not. That's where democracy like totally falls apart, right?
Yeah.
Is when you get a bunch of me's in a room who go like, I don't know. I feel like the media is kind of playing this out anyway. Which going to the last point you were talking about too, with the Nikki Haley losing the ballot to absolutely nobody, like that's, and you can explain that more out too for everybody else, but like. That's the shit that I look at and I go, yeah, who the fuck cares? Like it's just going to unfold the way it was going to unfold.
Yep. The
players are already in play. You know, the people are backed. The candidates are backed the way they're going to be backed. And there's not like an underdog hero anymore. Okay.
Right.
You know who's going to run. You potentially know who's going to win. Even with the Supreme Court stuff going on, it's like, that's gonna be a pivotal point in everything.
Yep.
But I'm getting way far ahead.
But you're right. But like
no structure anymore, just streaming consciousness.
That's what we're here for. But yeah, this last little thing, which is just embarrassing but not surprising to me, maybe it is to some other people. But yeah, you just brought up you know, in Nevada, Republican presidential primary candidate, which is a mouthful, Nikki Haley lost the Nevada GOP presidential primary to none of these candidates because Trump. It was kind of confusing for a lot of like Republican voters because they went there to vote for Trump, but Trump decided to stay off of this because the Nevada delegates for the RNC go through a different caucus, but this is also a primary that happens. It's kind of weird. But they didn't know that. They're like, oh, it's a primary, I'm going to go vote. And so it was not like a vote. It wasn't like a write-in campaign or anything. They were literally like, oh, well, I came here to vote for Trump. So I'm just going to check the box that says none of these candidates. And it won like by over 20% to the runner-up, Nikki Haley, and that was right after she was like on SNL and like all this like that was like, if you haven't checked that out yet, don't. but it was so cringe.
I'm going to.
Yeah,
but...
you should, because you'll hate it just as much as I did. You got to let me know what you think. But like doing all this propped up stuff, she's on like these news cycles over and over and over, and like on TV all this time, and like it was just wasting millions of dollars, wasting people's time and energy. And ultimately everybody knew how this was going to play out. So like the whole point, like you were talking about, is like just media spectacle and bullshit. And like it's just like, there's no point to this at all. You wish there was, in a sense of just like there being choices for people, even if you don't agree with it, but there was no fucking point. It was so out in the open that this was all just like everybody, like people pie in the sky idea that like this we weren't going to get a rerun, and it's like, we're going to get a fucking rerun.
No, we're gonna get it. And Nikki Haley isn't anyone's. And this goes for both sides. It's not just the Republican nominees, and it's the Democrat side too is the same way. That's like, you can't be legitimate right now in this race. You could not be a legitimate candidate if at any point in time you suck down Trump's dick.
Yep.
And every single one of them at one point in time, Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, at some point in time, they were like, that's our boy. And the minute you did that is the minute you couldn't be a legitimate candidate ever. No. Like because it'll always get brought up. They'll be like, well, what about, 5 years ago when you were all about Donald Trump? What about,
2 years
X
ago.
years ago? Yeah, whatever. Right. Exactly. 2 years ago. Like it doesn't matter. You have no legitimacy anymore. You're done. Like it would take like a fresh batch of like, 37 to 40-year-olds who weren't really involved in the race to like get into the race and start running, but they won't be able to because they're just going to be gate kept the entire time anyway.
Well, and
by like the big players.
Amount, it's like as an example, less people know this because she wasn't put on any media, and I'm like not a fan or anything, but it's like Marianne Williamson kind of ran as this progressive left-ish candidate for the Democrats. There's also another guy, Dean Phillips, that was running, and they both got like 2% at various like primaries. It was a joke against Joe Biden, right? Like they also lost against him in a primary where he was not on it, and people wrote in his name, and he got like 50% of the vote. So like we've had two examples of just like, for whatever reason, just this is it, right? Like nobody can. But the difference is, at one point, like Marianne Williamson and Dean Phillips were like had higher percentages than a lot of these guys like Ramaswamy and all that were running for the Republican primary, but yet those same people on the Republican side got all this media attention. They were on the different circuits. Then these other people, because MSNBC, CNN, and all them like are for Biden, right? Essentially, they didn't want him on, right? So like it just shows like the disparity in media coverage in that instance too. And at the end of the day, I'll stop rambling on this, but at the end of the day, it's just like, fuck it.
I'll keep you going. I'll keep you going for like 3 more minutes because I do gotta have a question for you as far as because I felt like when I was able to vote 10 years back now, a decade or so back, I was like, oh well, once like the older generation starts dying off, like we're gonna be okay. Like it's just because of like the people who watch, the mainstream media, like the CNNs and the Fox News, they're so polarized, and like it'll just get better. It'll get better once like my generation, the generation under, and like half the generation before me is like the main bulk of the voting pool. But I feel like we're so jaded at this point that it won't matter, right? Mm-hmm. Like I read some headlines. I don't deep dive. I deep dive in like the stuff I care about that doesn't relate to U.S. politics hardly at all. But like I deep dive on that stuff politically, but I don't care about the candidates anymore. I just like none of them have interested me. I've said it before that I was a huge Andrew Yang fan, and like just kind of like Bernie Sanders is kind of like a horrible house of cards that just flopped down, and he's gonna be nobody. So like he's not gonna do anything substantial, right? There's not going to be like a substantial flip. So do you think that in the next 20 years, when one generation has kind of they're not going to be the main bulk of the voting pool, do you think the next 20 years, do you think the voting was just going to get better, or do you think that our generation is going to be actually worse with candidates voting than the previous one?
So what I think is it is about generation in the sense that like I think when it gets to somewhat of younger people, I think it will get marginally better. Like I think people from our generation, certainly the one younger than us, are a lot more politically active than our, the Gen Xers or certainly the boomers, outside of just like watching, presidential elections, maybe congressional elections and midterms. I don't think that the electoral, when it comes to at least the president, I don't think it's going to get a whole lot better until things become less about vast amounts of wealth being the avenue to run for office, right? Because at the end of the day, moneyed interests are what's going to matter. Like it's not going to be, they'll find, and they've done this, right? You can see this on the right wing side of things for younger people. You've got relatively young, really, I mean, you've got some good, you've got some left wing, younger, more progressive Congress people, but like what I mean is like it's not like the newer generation comes in from the electoral process and then all of a sudden like things have changed. Like it's not going to happen that way, because there's lobbyists, there's people that need fundraising, there's all these different like super PACs that just give people insane amounts of money, and it's a you do this for me and I do this for you kind of deal to stay in office. And until that stuff's all like public and it doesn't rely on rich donors and it doesn't rely on like constant fundraising, and it actually just relies on like public funded elections or something to that capacity, I have way wilder beliefs on what government should be that involve like a revolution, in some ways like a revolution myself, for lack of a better word. But in the electoral process, I think like unless you take the money out, I think the money is more important than the age gap. Does that make sense?
No, for
because,
sure.
Like, there's people with good politics that can't fucking run for office because they can't raise $500 million. And that's the end of it.
Right.
So yeah, maybe it'll be better. Maybe it will be worse. But either way, at least we have backfire from Throne to throw on at the end of this to kind of supercharge the rage.
At least we have creative outlets and a podcast. And fun music news that we can just dissociate from all
this.
To
quote a former guest on this show, Rob Rousseau, who is a political podcaster, he said, podcasting actually is activism. It's the best thing you can do. So we are
you're doing the work.
Yeah, we're doing the work. Yeah. Well, Alec, thanks for going over all this with me, man. At least people that listen to this for the music side of things like the first half of it. We'll like the second half. And it'll be fine. But I think we'll throw on, because it's a short one, and I'll throw on a little clip from swear words from what sales ahead at the beginning. We'll throw on backfire from Throne at the end of this. This has been fun, man. Thanks for taking your time to do this with me.
Absolutely, always a pleasure, man.